Welcome into the latest episode of the Betting Pitch Soccer Podcast. I am the host, the real underscore G Warner, across all social media platforms, Instagram, YouTube. Betting the Pitch is a podcast you can find on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify. And tonight's episode, Late Night with the real underscore G Warner, fresh off a plane, a Monday Night Football game, a Monday Night Football special edition of the NFL podcast. Get you all everything in your podcast areas as quickly as possible for any potential travel delays, because I was certainly sitting at DFW for a long time today. Anyway, tonight's episode will be the Champions League going through Tuesday and Wednesday of this 25th or so week, and whatever week of the year it is. But the month of November, today's the 25th. We just turned over the clocks on the East Coast, so it's time as the dog come downstairs. She's probably not used to anyone talking at this hour. But let's get into this, and here comes the big one as well. So we'll start in the Champions League with the earliest part of the schedule. Hi there. Hello, hello. Too far away from camera, unfortunately. But we'll start with Ajax hosting Benfica as we hear the dog bones dropping. Currently, Ajax half a goal underdog with all the juice right now at home to Benfica. Total is 2 and 3/4, and it's juice slightly more, about 6 cents. That is more to under 2 and 3/4 than to over. So Ajax formerly, I mean, made it to Champions League finals fairly recently, but they have just frankly not been a good enough team at this level. They dropped down to the Europa League last year, which is almost unheard of from their Dutch Eredivisie play. That's the only way I could lean this one is to the half of a goal underdog. The problem is I just don't know that they could really actually make it onto a card because we haven't seen it from them for years. Yes, the Dutch crowds are really great at home in Amsterdam, really across that entire country. I just don't know that there's enough that we've seen for, like I said, a long time to even consider backing them. So at this point, I think I'm wait and see on Ajax for a very long time until they fix something. And I don't know if they're doing it anytime soon, as the dog's literally licking my toes as trying to, believe it or not, more distracting than my other co-host, Biggie Ben and his rages, and then of course A underscore Snicker with the mustache. But we're here, and I guess we're just gonna keep try not to crush the dogs while I do this. So we'll move to the next game, that UCL Tuesday card. We'll have the Wednesday part coming up. Best bet, we are 11, 5 and 1, 69%. Nice year to date. And we will continue to update that record as I get further along watching every single soccer game. But unfortunately, going to an office all week does certainly change that. Today, being on a plane, slightly different. But we'll move to Galatasaray. So we'll move to Istanbul, Turkey, maybe on the Asian side. We might have changed continents, but still the UEFA Champions League. We have Union Saint-Gilloise. They're 3 point, or totals three in this one, juiced very heavily to over. But Union Saint-Gilloise, USG, they're 3/4 goal underdogs on the road at Galatasaray. So Galatasaray and all Dutch, or excuse me, all Turkish clubs, they need to prove their defense for us to trust them on this level. Turkish clubs, despite big names from England and other cast-offs from other top European soccer leagues, just don't ever seem to defend because they have the name players that seem to have the panache, but there's no rugged defense there. Maybe that's changing. I still haven't been proven it yet, but Union Saint-Gilloise is a finesse team that's going to try to outscore you. So I think Galatasaray deserves to be favored, of course, at home in Istanbul. But at this point, I don't know really what it would take for me to want to back USG in their first Champions League campaign. Probably a full goal of insurance, and we don't have that yet. Moving to the big window on Tuesday afternoon here in the United States, 9 p.m. or so Europe time, and 3 p.m., 2 p.m., 1 p.m., 12 here in the United States. But Bodo Glimt, they are hosting Juventus. Total in this one is three, just a little bit more to the under. And there's a home underdog here, which, as everyone knows, gets me going. Bodo Glimt are a goal scoring side, so that does make the under less interesting to me at this point. But I do like the idea of fading Juventus. They've now changed managers. They're playing better, but I think there's still high expectations for a name that is Juve that just hasn't been a dominant side in England, excuse me, in Italy, England, or really any place they've been playing football over the most recent seasons. And Bodo, they are a no-name team from literally the Arctic Circle, about as high up north in Norway as you can go. So basically falling off the planet. And if you live in flat Earth, then good luck with that. But at this point, I think they're a home team. They could certainly get a result at home. Wouldn't be surprised if they won. And the way this number's trending, we might even see them a half of a goal underdog where a draw will play a full bet. So I'm interested in Bodo Glimt and really fading Juventus at this point. Move next to Borussia Dortmund hosting Villarreal of Spain. We have The Dortmund, Schwarzgelben are half a goal favorites with more juice. Total is 2 and 3/4, juice really heavily to over. And Villarreal, they were a outscore you every night team. They've changed their ways. Their manager was always a counterattacking style, or wanted to play that, played at Valencia and also Athletic Club Bilbao in Spain before taking this job. And Marcelino's been really good. I like what he's done. I think this half of a goal underdog is probably enough for me to get very interested in Villarreal. I think I want a 3/4 goal underdog to play, so I have a little bit of safety and a single goal loss. Would certainly love a +1, but the juice doesn't suggest it's going to get there at all, especially as we have 14 hours for this to move. But I am curious to see how much the market likes Dortmund, and I certainly like Villarreal for a rebuilding side that has shown looked so good really in La Liga in Spain this entire season. Dortmund are better in Champions League because they don't have to win every match, but this is one they do based on the spread. So interested in Villarreal. A lot of yellow in that stadium, I'm projecting. Move next to Chelsea hosting Barcelona. Currently Chelsea quarter goal favorites with more juice on the Barcelona side. Total is 3.5, and it's juiced more to the under. And this is a big. Uh, I'm sure this will be on a lot of cards this week as Barcelona is an underdog. You don't get it a lot. Didn't work in El Clasico against Real Madrid earlier this season, though they played a competitive game, but didn't really look as if they were on the same level, unfortunately, if you're a Barca fan. From the Chelsea's perspective, I mean, they've spent a ton of money on their team. They've done it, I mean, they've far more. They're actually a positive in bank accounts, apparently, compared to Barcelona. But um, the difference here, though, is how well do Chelsea create goals? It's easier to do that against Barcelona, but there are not this many extreme high lines in the English Premier League. Maybe you could say Mikel Arteta at Arsenal is employing it, but it's a different situation because Arsenal's forever in the other opponent team's half, so you have to play high line or you'd be in your own territory with a huge gap. So I think Barca will never. I mean, Hansi Flick, their manager, will never leave his strategy behind. But I do think Barca, I mean, there's probably some goals in this game. Under 3.5 is not interesting to me. Above three is generally a key number to look under. I think Barca are the side I want here at a quarter of a goal underdog. I don't know, even if there's a ton of money that comes in Barca and pushes it to pick them, if that makes me like Chelsea, but I think it would keep me up Barcelona if that does happen in that scenario. Move next to Manchester City. They're hosting Bayer Leverkusen. Currently, City a 2 goal favorite. The total is 3.5, just more to the over. Um, Manchester City are just, I mean, they're improving. The line is certainly suggesting that this number is much higher than I expected. Can't Only way I can really lean here is to the underdog here. Leverkusen 2 goal underdogs. You can lose by two and still get your money back. For a team that's been so successful, had that undefeated season until a Europa League final a couple seasons ago. And then I've been at the top of the German Bundesliga. They've certainly lost a lot of their team has moved on. The very different side, different manner. They're on their second of the season already. But it is a big number. I don't know that I want to back Leverkusen because I feel like the House of Cards will topple, but they've been really good in the German Bundesliga, maybe because that's just such a weak league on a international or continental type of comparison. But this is going to be a big test for Leverkusen, and they can certainly pass it, but I don't know if the two's enough, even though it's a big number. Next, we'll go to Napoli hosting Karabag. Currently, Napoli a three. Total is three on this one, just slightly more, 2 cents more to under. Karabag, 1.5 goal underdogs on the road. So, not a lot expected from their offense. Napoli have not shown much offense for months now, it feels. And I don't think that's necessarily going to change here. I think we see Karabag, who are off to an incredible start, unexpected in Champions League this season by far. Um, but I'll lean to their side here, 1.5, though I fear that eventually their luck will run out as well. I think under three, those gives you a goal and a half more to play with. I'm not sure Colorado are scoring this matchup, so that makes under three. I mean, certainly could go 4-0, 4-0 to Napoli, but I think that push on three is really essential if they keep a clean sheet. Still in this Tuesday window, we have Marseille, a pick 'em right now at home to Newcastle, all the juice. Total is 2 and 3/4, and it's just very heavily to under right now. So Newcastle with big matchup with Manchester City, speaking of this weekend. Now they go on the road to Marseille for another really tough environment. Yes, theirs was at home, but this is a big trip. And you have Roberto De Zerbi, the manager of Marseille, who has coached Brighton as recently as 2 seasons ago, knows Newcastle well. Eddie Howe's been there forever, it seems now, at least on a football manager type of timeline. So I think the real question is do Newcastle deserve to be a favorite here? Yes, they have a ton more budget in the English Premier League than they do in Liga. But Marseille are really talented. That's the only way I could certainly lean this one. I love home underdogs, love a pick 'em that I wasn't expecting. Um, and no real feel for the total because I think we could see goals here, or we could see more of a really tough physical type of match because Marseille certainly want to do that in their own stadium, and Newcastle are even more built for it with that rugged midfield. To the last game on Tuesday before I give out my best bet from Tuesday, which will then get smashed into a comparison for Tuesday and Wednesday, and we'll try to come up with what the actual best bet is. End of show. Those are 11 and 5 and 1, 69% so far year to date, and what I've caught up on. We have Slavia Prague and Athletic Club Bilbao. Currently, the price on this one, Slavia Prague, a two goal, excuse me, a quarter goal underdog at home with all the juice. And the total on this one is 2.5, which is gigantic for an athletic club match at this point. Considering their struggle scoring goals this year, yes, you could blame it a ton on the injuries to the Williams brothers. Nico Williams, who is very much flirting with Barcelona a couple seasons ago. They had no money. There's a lot of questions about how they would have moved it to get him, but he stayed confirmed that he was staying at Athletic Club this season, but has not been on the pitch due to injury. I don't think he's been held out because he's been holding out trying to get a move, but um, there's been very little activity for him on a pitch, and that's really tough to, even if he plays in this matchup somehow, to really expect much. Slavia Prague are not a big budget, Czechia side, Czech Republic, that really defend. I saw them in Rome at Roma a couple seasons ago in Europa League, and they conceded a goal in the second minute, literally before I even got in the stadium, and then held on for dear life and played a really great defensive game. I don't think that's necessarily going to happen here, but I think there's a good chance we see a very low scoring game, and I think that's certainly worth it for the home underdog, and also definitely the under 2.5. So from Tuesday, let's get with our best bet here. I think I'm going to stay with that one. I think Slavia Prague under 2.5 is the biggest interest for me in on the Tuesday card. I think there's a big chance that, I think it's possible Athletic Club do not even score as a road favorite. So that certainly points to under. So move now to Wednesday of Copenhagen hosting Kairat Almaty, and probably the biggest favorite Copenhagen have ever been in the Champions League, I suspect. Copenhagen, a 1.5 goal favorite at home with a little bit more juice. Total is 3, and it's used really heavily to over. I don't know that I could trust Kairat to play at this level. They were one of the longest odds to win the Champions League, and probably were extremely long odds to advance. And they've gotten blasted a few times so far. So that's late night with the real underscore G1. The yawns are here. I don't really see a lot for that I want to get involved with in this early start on Wednesday. So we move to the next game. That's Pafos hosting Monaco. Currently Pafos 3/4 goal underdogs at home. All the juice on Monaco right now, trending toward one full goal. Current total is 2 3/4 juice all the way to over. And Monaco have been, I think, more defensive after their manager change with Adi Hütter finally leaving. Though I didn't think he was really a fit for them because they're a goal scoring team and he's a counter-attacking manager. Maybe they're trying to go for a combo there, but Pafos are going to try to keep this as low scoring as possible. That's not really the way Monaco usually play, but I haven't really seen a ton of offense from them compared to their personnel this season. So that's of interest, I guess. It's not strong, but especially if we got a 3, I think I'd be a lot more interested in the under, and the juice is certainly pointing that direction. Moving next to the big window, Arsenal, quarter goal favorites at home to Bayern Munchen. Total in this one is 2 3/4, and it's juiced more to the under than to the over, which is wild. When was the last time we saw a Bayern Munchen total below 3? I can't even tell you. When have we seen Arsenal a small favorite like this, only a quarter goal? I'm kind of hoping for some Bayern money to come in so I can back Arsenal at home as a pick 'em. Probably would be expensive. Not even sure we'll see that, but. Uh, I know Joe Dollar listens to a lot of the podcasts, a longtime Patreon subscriber, patreon.com. So that's a real underscore G Warner if you want my plays, leans, write ups across all sports, college basketball, college football, the NFL, Major League Baseball, gone and died a really horrible playoffs death, but everything else, it's all out there. And if you download the app, you can turn on notifications, you get a buzz every time I lock something in. And we're shooting for 10 minutes pregame and trying to increase that even more to give you as much time to get moving and get on the action as quickly as possible. Um, but so back to why I mentioned Joe is he's a big over guy because I am not one, and he's always been wanting to go that way. I feel like with a total below 3, yes, Arsenal are barely even conceding shots, never mind goals in Premier League play. And in Champions League, you could argue also. But I think at this point, there's so much offense on the pitch that 3 goals does not seem like an extremely low number, or it feels like an extremely low number. So over 2 and 3/4. There we are, Joe. That's my biggest interest in this matchup because I don't think Arsenal is going to reach that pick 'em. Move next to, of course, smaller names. That's probably the biggest matchup of this card, but we'll go straight to another great one with Atletico Madrid hosting Inter. Currently, Atleti a quarter goal favorite right now, more juice on the Inter side. Totals 2 and 3/4, and is juiced heavily to under right at this moment. So, Atletico Madrid have turned into a goal scoring side. They don't play as physically or as defensively, which is probably better for their red cards and their discipline numbers, but I just don't think they're as strong in this specific competition because that's where they're built for, and specifically the playoff knockout round football. I think Atleti are going to be forced to play that way against Inter, though. I think if they're going to try to outscore Inter, it will not work because Inter's defense is great. I think it's going to be tough for Atleti, the favorite, to score goals here. So I'm very interested in Inter as a side, getting a quarter of a goal, but I think I like the under 2 and 3/4 as well because that just feels like another gigantic total for Inter in Champions League when they truly can score goals, which is a fear, but they have one of the best defenses in this entire competition. We'll move next to Eintracht Frankfurt. They are hosting Atalanta in a matchup of weaker defenses, to say the least. Atalanta's been okay, but they haven't been scoring much. They are pick 'em with more juice on the road in Germany. Total is 3 on this one, juiced all the way to under -127. I don't know. I see that very often at Bet Online, but especially on a push because I know they would rather have this be at 2 and 3/4 just to not have to return any money that they collected because that's what the name of the sports betting game is. But Eintracht's defense has been really poor. For some reason, I feel like they're stronger with their proud fan base on the road. So for me right now, I think Atalanta is playing a good defense that's not seeing a lot of goals and they're not scoring much. That's kind of what Ivan Juric has always done as a manager. So to me, I guess I'll put Eintracht's name first because they are the underdog right here. But Eintracht under 3, my biggest interest in that matchup. We'll move next to Olympiacos hosting Real Madrid. Bring in Los Blancos, Los Merengues, all the way to Piraeus in the Greek capital of Athens. The side is 1 and 1/4 goal underdog. That is Olympiacos at home. Total is 3, just all the way to over. So Real Madrid have been awesome this year. Xavi Alonso deserves a lot of credit. I was not willing to give it to him early in the season, but we'll see because he still has a team that is so much better than everyone else in his league besides Barcelona. We'll see how that goes this year, but he's already gone off to a great start because he didn't lose 4-0. With that said, Olympiacos, they have a decent offense at times, but not in this game. And their strategy is really dangerous against Real Madrid, who have played against a lot of high lines in La Liga. And that's exactly what Jose Luis Mendilibar does. So I don't know. This is a really great matchup because it feels like a dangerous thing. And I don't think what Jose Luis Mendilibar knows will do much to stop a Real Madrid team just because he knows the manager or something in that vein. So I don't think I have anything to put down for that matchup. Move next to PSG hosting Tottenham. Currently, PSG 1.5 goal favorites. A little bit more juice on Tottenham away. Total in this one is 3 and 1/4, and it's used very heavily to under. And we've seen a very defensive, counterattacking, or deep sitting Tottenham under Thomas Frank. Lawrence Frank, that's a basketball coach, I think, in the NBA, formerly of the Nets, if I'm not mistaken, and Bucks probably, and a million other teams because they all recycle the same coaches, kind of like soccer as well, I guess. But um, Thomas Frank has played much more defensively than I think anyone expected when he took the Tottenham job, especially against the bigger clubs. It's worked better away from home. It's gotten a lot of boos in his own home stadium. I think this is probably where it's scary, but above 3 with a team that's going to try to defend, I think that makes Tottenham look like they have some value under 3 and 1/4. In terms of the side with Tottenham goal-and-a-half underdogs, I don't really trust them to score. I really don't like what I've seen from Xavi Simons, who was really good in Germany, but they're much weaker defenses, and he's looked lost after a late move to Tottenham this season. Maybe next year it'll start off a lot better. He'll, I'm sure, improve over the season, but I just don't feel like there's a lot of goals in Tottenham right now, which if this gets ugly and PSG starts scoring a bunch, then this could get ugly and can certainly go over pretty quickly. But I do like getting a push on 3, actually a half win and a half push on 3. And anything above that 3 number or on that 3 number, I think I'm still interested. 2 matches left to go before we get to the ultimate best bet. Liverpool 1 and 3/4 goal favorites at home to PSV Eindhoven. Total in this one is 3.5, and it's juiced very heavily to over. So PSV has shown they can score goals in this competition. Of course, they're in the Dutch Eredivisie. But now they're going to Liverpool and they need to defend. Liverpool certainly have not been anywhere near as fortunate, or that's why they haven't been as good this season. There's been a lot of questions about Arne Slot. I think he's a great manager, or at least great public speaker, a Mac Brown of football, if you will, or European football. The big question is, can PSV hang around? Can they score Liverpool? Probably not. Liverpool's defense has been porous, but I don't think PSV are going to pierce them much. So this feels like a really dangerous game for Eindhoven to try to outscore Liverpool, almost like they must score the first goal or things could get ugly. And I don't like backing teams like that. Last but not least, Sporting Lisboa. They're hosting Club Bruges of Belgium. They're traveling to Lisbon, Portugal. Not too far, really. Right now, the spread is 3/4 of a goal favorites are Sporting Lisboa at home with all the juice. Total on this one is three, juice pretty heavily to over. So they're expecting some goals. We've seen Bruges be able to score a ton of them. Had a really good run last season, knocked out Atalanta in the knockout rounds of the Champions League. Um, and they seem to spend or have bigger name players in Belgium than you'd ever expect. Must be some wealthy owners there, and they've certainly paid it off by going further in competition than anyone would expect. Sporting Lisboa, I don't think have been good since Ruben Amorim left for Manchester United. And at this point, I'm leaning to Bruges getting 3/4 of a goal, but I'll be waiting to see if that +1 pops up at a decent price because I think that is probably the most interesting thing for me to play on this day's card. But in terms of the best bet in this episode, before we get there, I want to make sure I pump up all the other episodes. We just did an NFL podcast special on Monday night for everyone traveling this week. That went out during the Panthers and 49ers game, but that's with my co-host A_Schnicker that is on this Betting the Pitch NFL edition platform, or just Betting the Pitch Apple Podcast and on Spotify at the real_Drew on YouTube and on Instagram for the summaries, the shorts and the reels, plus the full episode does go up on YouTube. And we've been climbing subscribers there this year, trying to get more of those. So come on in. The water is warm. Tomorrow we'll be doing a college football episode with XX Lante XX on the pregame.com Twitter feeds, plus the NFL. We should be doing a college basketball episode of Big East Bend at some point this week as well. But with holidays and stuff, that all gets complicated. Muy complicado. And then other than that, I've already mentioned patreon.com/real_G Warner, best spot to get all my plays across all sports, all in the same place. One low monthly price per month. Check it out if you haven't already. Patreon.com/real_G Warner. And I guess it's time for the ultimate best bet. So I haven't given out Wednesday. I like the Inter under 2 3/4 goals on the road at Atletico Madrid. And now it's time to improve on the 11-5-1, 69% so far. Nice record on best bets this year. We were 68% last year, so we're right on track to try to do the same type of performance and try to win as many other bets that don't show up on the ultimate best bet portion. But from Tuesday, I like Slavia Prague under 2.5 goals at home to Athletic Club Bilbao of Spain in Spain's La Liga. On Wednesday, more La Liga action with Atletico Madrid hosting Inter under 2 3/4, my best bet in that Wednesday edition. But best bet for this whole, I guess, match day 5 of the UEFA Champions League. Let's go Slavia Prague under 2.5 goals, and I'll do it for this episode.